Can I get the presenters or the panelists? Can I get you to come up? Nick, Bob, Rick, Roger, who did I forget? Peter. Now I've given you some, there are 3 mics that we set out. Hopefully that will give you a chance to share as you need to. By the way, if they're not turned on, you have to turn them on. It takes about 2 seconds for it to be recognized and actually turn on. Why don't we start? Why don't you do an introduction and then before we get in the panel?
Sure. Good evening. I'm Roger Franklin, President and CEO of Crystal. Many of you know Crystal. We provide network management and control systems for video distributors, metadata insertion and validation solutions, et cetera, and some spectrum monitoring.
Bob Baker, Director of Engineering for Transport Distribution for Turner Broadcasting CNN. We bring in all the feeds from all over the world and send out 80 networks and over 100 ABR streams out all over the world.
Got my own. Rick Ackerman, Southern Regional Governor and sole employee of MVA Broadcast Consulting and former Turner employee.
Nick Anderson, post-production specialist for Digital Glue, or a broadcast systems integrator.
Peter Ostapiuk, I'm with Intelsat, and I'm a head of media product services at Intelsat.
Before we get into this, one thing I will ask is if you have a question, raise your hand. We're going to, or I will be running a microphone out to you. The people who are streaming, we have 17 people who signed up to stream the meeting. That's the only way they can hear you. So we'll try and get that microphone to you. To the panelists, if we fail, just repeat the question if you don't mind. Bob, you were talking a little bit about getting this started, so I'm going to let you guys.
Great.
You've already made some arrangements.
Okay. Well, thanks for coming. Man, this is like an incredible, it's like an NEB turnout. Yeah, so I was very blessed to get to go to CES again this year, and I hung out with Mr. Ackerman's here and saw Roger. We thought we'd kind of just start out and talk a little bit about some of the main technologies that we saw, and then some of us brought pictures, and some of us, have a lot to show you. So, and some little toys to show you that we already got a hold of. So anyway, so let's just start. I thought like from the beginning, I'll make a few things that I saw, and then we'll kind of go down the line here. But definitely, a lot of 4K monitors, 8K monitors. Samsung had 170, right? 170-inch TV. But wait, go online and read about it. It actually wasn't one TV. It was, I think, 8 panels. But when I went to the booth, I didn't know that, and I couldn't tell. So now they had you standing back pretty far. But I don't know about you, but I just think that's pretty amazing at the number of big events that I've done, with LED screen, big, huge screens that you've seen how they build the LED walls and that kind of stuff, to think that now, and I don't know if you've seen, but some of the companies like Leard and some of them are going to bigger panels. They're not doing the 1-foot squares now because it's, you don't see it as much and it's a lot easier to set up. To think that we're starting to do that to the home is pretty amazing because, I mean, the processors that break up that signal that do that in those systems is very expensive. So anyway, so it's pretty incredible. And then a lot of, I know guys here have a lot of stuff with automotive. Roger did a lot of the automotive stuff, things like that. Quantum dots, I find very interesting. We saw more quantum dot monitors. Very interesting technology. Much more wider color gamut, so the colors just look incredible. We saw those at SMPTE with Vizio. Who would think Vizio would be leading that? And who was the other company? It was Hisense, I think. Hisense actually had the other quantum. Jump in whenever you want, Rick. And then because you know me. But anyways, and then OLED.
You can go now.
And so stop. And then OLED, I love OLED. Price is still very high, but LG was really pushing OLED. The big news is...
Well, actually, since you brought that up,
okay, good.
What was interesting is that everybody was, is pushing OLED and quantum dots, but Sony, and we have no pictures because Sony would not let anybody take any pictures. They actually went old school. They were pushing their backlit LCD TVs. What they've done is they've increased the number of LEDs behind it for the backlight to make it so that the area that has the contrast when you use variable backlit LED is very, very small. And they were able to create a very, very high contrast extended color gamut TV.
1,000 LEDs?
No, it's more than that.
It's over 1,000.
Over 1,000 LEDs.
Yeah.
and they didn't tell exactly how many. They wouldn't say, but they were able to make a very impressive picture using just backlit LEDs. Now, the key to the whole thing isn't how good can you make a picture. The question is, how good can you make a picture at what price point?
Yep.
You can make the greatest picture, but if the price point is too high, it's going nowhere, aka plasma. So
That was my big announcement next.
yeah,
Go ahead.
that was last year. That was going last year.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So it was interesting that they've come. Now I don't know what the price point is. They wouldn't discuss squat. All they would do is show the picture how good it looked. But it'll be interesting to see if whether or not using what now is 4-year-old technology, ancient, they can come up with something that can compete with the latest greatest technology at a lower price point.
But Panasonic announced officially they're not making TVs anymore, and Sharp, of course, wasn't there. Sharp sold their LCD plant to Hisense. So if you heard, they're still going to be selling them with the Sharp name on them apparently. But Hisense, just Microsoft had a huge booth years ago. They pulled out, I think last year, right, or 2 years ago. That huge area that was Microsoft is now Hisense. They're really serious into it.
Yeah, because on the TV side, really you're left with Japan is down to Sony. Korea, obviously, LG and Samsung, they are the two, big leader players, king of the hills in the space. And then it's Hisense, Chenoying, which I'm going to pronounce wrong, and a bunch of Chinese companies, with Panasonic and Sanyo and all the rest of them gone.
But I hear there was something other than just displays at the show.
There are one or two other things. Robots are starting to get big, and we'll see some pictures and video of those. Had a chat with somebody in California who was presented to me on a little stand that they could move around. Had a couple cameras so they wouldn't run over my feet, but that was an interesting experience. And then automobile automation, that's pretty big. Saw some 3D printers. This was my first CES. Rick said 3D printers were a lot smaller this year. I found one or two that were very interesting. And home automation, wearables, Internet of Things kind of stuff was cool. Right. One of my favorite parts, though, was getting to drive a few BMWs, which that's always fun. A few of the good ones.
By the way, I calculated this was actually CES 26 for me.
Oh, gosh.
Of course, that includes the ones I snuck into in Chicago when I wasn't old enough to actually go to CES.
That's back when the electronics were diesel powered, right?
So that's back when the big thing was, what's the latest VHS deck?
Yeah. Nick, you saw a couple things, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think one of the things that really stood out to me was that all the TV manufacturers they were showing their next gens of technology, not models of TVs. And really what it was is now we're getting into this era of wide color gamut, and basically that we can finally at least show Rec 709 accurately. And then right at that point, they're saying, well, we're not just going to go HDR. We're going to take the Rec 709, we're going to make it HDR. We're going to boost even the HDR even further, and they were just getting another area where we could finally have accurate images, and they just want to extend it out further.
There's a lot of HDR.
Oh yeah, lots of HDR. Yeah.
Peter, from the satellite world.
Yeah, so let me touch on couple of areas that weren't mentioned before. I did not have a chance to walk and see everything at CES. I walked most of the Las Vegas Convention Center. I actually saw two booths with the satellite dishes on them, believe it or not. So one of them was a drone manufacturer. And by the way, drones probably occupied about a half of the southern lower hall. Yeah, a lot of them were really kind of marketed as really kind of high-tech toys and the hobbyist thing. But there were a couple of manufacturers that actually pitched the drones as a part of the news gathering ecosystem, right? And one of them had actually a satellite track that had integrated cameras together with the drones, and it had a Exceed Viasat dish for the satellite connectivity for those areas that where bonded cellular is not available, right? So it's kind of a hybrid bonded cellular and the satellite track. The second place that actually had a satellite dish on was the Panasonic stand, and Panasonic itself was exhibiting their aviation, entertainment, and automation system, and that is using a Kayamera flat panel, KU electronically steerable dish that is actually built into the body of the aircraft. And Panasonic actually with Intelsat has worked on providing the services for the transatlantic flights, both for the entertainment and for data connectivity. So that was another place where there was a satellite dish, and coincidentally, the same dish is going to be used for providing services for the smart cars, right? Most of the northern haul was occupied by all the car manufacturers, so it was all about, bringing a connectivity that you have at home to your car, right? So it's self-driving cars, it's updates to the software, for the recalls and for maintenance, communication with the GPS systems, and some of that connectivity is done through the wireless networks, but the CES was actually followed the following week by the car manufacturer show in Detroit. And one of the announcements there, and again, satellite related, is that the Kayamera, Intelsat, and Toyota announced a partnership in actually providing a satellite-based connectivity to the cars, again, using the Kayamera flat dish built into the roof of the car.
I think one of the things that made the news probably about 3 or 4 months ago is Tesla, which has always been pushing out software updates via satellite, actually made an update to their, I don't want to say engine, but the processor and the inverter and everything else, and they improved the performance by knocking 0.2 of a second off the 0 to 60. And it was the first time it had been done without the car ever going into the shop. It just, people suddenly had a little bit more performance. So it was quite, I guess, a sign of things to come. I've heard that you have half the show drones, South Hall cars, North Hall's cars. And then I guess the Central Hall was and biomedical wearable.
SANS was the wearable, 3D printing, Internet of Things.
Virtual
That's
reality.
true, and some VR. And I mean, one of the best things I saw was virtual reality desktop for if you develop VR applications. The challenge now is you have to write on a flat screen, code in a flat screen, and then put your goggles on to kind of see what it looks like. This you wear the goggles while you develop, and you have your desktop right there in front of you, and that was really cool. I'm ready to get a set of that for my office.
Yeah, I saw a demo. Actually, I'll be honest, it wasn't at CES, but it was a VR demo, and it was actually produced by Warner Brothers. And it was weird. You could forget where you were.
Yeah, you get a good set of headphones on.
A good set of noise canceling headphones, and the VR in front of you, and you move your head around, and as you're moving, it's totally tracking it. And it's weird. You can actually start to truly forget you're sitting in a room surrounded by people.
Yeah, I've seen coders where they seem to get lost in the world. I can't imagine what it's going to be like when you give them a headset.
Oh, the productivity gains can be enormous. Because I mean, you could get in an hour and a half, 2 hours worth of work in that environment, you could get 8 hours work done. Yeah, I'm expecting that anyways. Yeah.
Warning.
Speaking of satellite, I just thought about something when Peter was talking. One of the things interesting was Dish Network was showing their new Hopper, which is, so you all know they started with the Hopper. They started recording the major networks, right? Prime time every day. And now they're recording 16 channels, 16 networks at once.
Yeah, actually more than that. It's 16 tuners. Some of those tuners can do multiple networks because they can pull in whatever's on the transponder. And initially, it will, except for the broadcast networks, ABC, NBC, CBS, and Fox, the plan actually is later on where they can record multiple feeds that are on a transponder. So when they start putting things together, a good example might be, you might be able to record all the news networks simultaneously with one DMOD.
And they were also doing a quad split, build your own quad split.
Yep, a 4K quad split. So each one of the quads is 1080.
If I can ask, something I like to ask in these shows is, I just want to ask each one of you, what would you say was the most impressive, or if you were to think of, this is the thing to come, this is what's going to be big. Peter, if there was one thing you had say this is it, what would you have pointed at?
Satellite related or not necessarily?
Anything. What
Anything.
you
So-
what you were most impressed, and you think this is what we're going to see in the home and in the business.
So something probably out of Jetstones, right? But there was on display an autonomous flying vehicle, right? So really a life-size drone for one person, right? I think it was a Korean or a Chinese manufacturer, right? Totally driven by the GPS. So you just get in, you program where you're going, that thing takes you up and takes you wherever you're going.
And I've
If
read
you trust it. And they had video actually of people in the vehicle, taking off and landing.
And I've
That was
read
very
about it
impressive.
where they're trying to promote it, that you get in it, program it, and then you can read your newspaper while this thing flies you to where you
That is
want to
correct.
go.
Yeah, it's totally autonomous. I thought that was, if it really works as advertised, as they showed on the video, it was really, really cool.
Nick?
Definitely virtual reality and augmented reality. I think this is going to be the year all that's really going to hit and be high enough quality to really just go huge. I mean, you go to booths and they would let you, like, basically one of the main problems was all the VR demos, they didn't have a time limit. So you'd go in there and people would be sitting there for 45 minutes. So the line was like 4 hours long to get in there. You had to get there in the morning. And then even like the Sony, they had the PlayStation VR, and they couldn't have more than 4 people in line. And so everyone was just crowding around, blocking the entire Sony booth trying to get into it. But I think it's gonna be huge. I was able to do, the only demo I was able to do was the Samsung Gear VR. But I mean, you can get in there. It's like you're in if you do the app for Netflix, you can watch as like a big screen monitor in front of you, and you're like in a room. You look down, you can see like your legs and stuff, and you look around, and they have it's like a house in the mountains or something. And so it's like even watching content, it's like you have a bigger screen than you can afford with just that. It's pretty crazy.
I know I can't talk to my kids when they're watching television now, let alone. Rick?
Yeah. My takeaway isn't the home, it's the automotive. It's amazing, with whether it's self-driving cars or whether it's driver assisting cars, whether it's heads-up displays, electric cars, I think the automotive industry is in for a real revolution in many different levels. And I don't think a few years from now we're gonna recognize it. I mean, even if self-driving cars don't come along, you're definitely going to have some very advanced collision avoidance, some very advanced rerouting for how to get around traffic. Stuff that makes your what you currently get on your Google Map or your what is it, Waze, look like nothing. I mean, and I think that is really coming. I think it's coming very rapidly.
One of you has, and we'll see it later, a presentation. I saw the picture of inside a car that looked more like more stuff than my computer center has,
Yeah.
and so forth. So, Bob?
As each person was saying something, I'm like, oh, darn, I can't say that.
You can.
One
if
thing
you think if you think it is.
One thing that was funny, I thought, was this closet thing where you throw your clothes in the bottom drawer out of the dryer, and it folds them and stacks them all up for you.
Yeah.
So
the Laundroid.
yeah, the laundry thing. I need that. But I think the other thing was, yeah, I totally agree with these guys. But I think the smartphones. Look at, somebody mentioned earlier about the Flip. Look what happened with the Flip and Cisco. I think as the smartphones I've got a really cool camera to show you later. But I think that they're just going to keep getting smarter and smarter and do more and more. And I think that's going to keep replacing other items. What was interesting was, you won't believe this, who was there showing their new smartphone was Marshall. Yeah, the guitar amp people. So they are coming out with their own smartphone, and there was a lot of people looking at it. They were very, very interested in it. So I thought that was interesting. But I think all those the smart devices and all your tablets, definitely it's going to get bigger and bigger.
Yeah, I mean, VR is definitely near the top of the list. Automobile automation and connected automobiles where they're talking to each other, not necessarily just back to the home. So the traffic routing gets more interesting when you have cars talking to each other. The Internet of Things with home automation, systems where you walk up to your house, it knows it's you, it unlocks the doors, disarms the security system, all that kind of stuff. I think we'll see some of that come through this year. It's still a little bit clunky, so next year might be a better year for when it gets more mainstream. But that was interesting.
But a lot of that, Mr. I think a lot of that is using your phone, you know, your smartphone or your tablet. I mean, with Bluetooth, I saw, you know, it was just a simple thing like a little padlock. This company from Australia, and you think about how many kids use padlocks and everything, right? And you walk up with your phone and it just unlocks it. So, you know, things like that where, and like he said in the home where you know, opens your garage door now, opens your front door, opens your, oh, and by the way, you can program the locks that you say, okay, I'm at work, or I could be in Amsterdam at IBC, you mean, and somebody's got to go to my house to pick up a package. Boom, I just say, I need, you know, open the door either right this second or later, whatever, and then it relocks it and they leave. And oh, by the way, there's a camera, you know, everywhere now, and so I can see them leave the house and drop off the package.
And I mean, it's basic technology. My brother, last year sometime, when his phone connects to his home network on the Wi-Fi, he's got a script running that's looking for the IP address of his phone. Hey, you're here, and it unlocks, disarms the alarms. And it's been around. It's just making it, it's getting a lot easier for folks that aren't as savvy as my brother to install and make work.
But one of the big things too is that all the TV manufacturers are really jumping on Android TV, and that had the Samsung was showing where they had that integrated with the Internet of Things, so that you press a button on your TV and it can either change all the settings in your TV to the right picture style and all that, but it also changes the lights and brings them down to the right level for watching something.
Yeah, I found it interesting that Sony. I was shocked that Sony incorporated Android TV because they actually have a widely used functional platform with the PlayStation Store. And I was like, why are they, of anybody, incorporating Android? Because they truly have a competitive platform that's very widely used.
Can I ask, and I've seen this with people who saying, I don't have cable anymore. I have Chrome, or I have Android, or I have Roku or Netflix, whatever. Getting away from the appointment TV. Did you see more of that this year?
Well, once again, Dish Network owns Sling TV, which effectively is cable over internet. Yes, they have skinny bundles, and you can add and add and add. But it is okay. But it is effectively cable over internet. So for folks who want to say, I don't have cable, even though I do have data service from Comcast, they can then go out and buy Sling TV, and there are others coming. Apple's has been delayed a bit, but it's coming soon. Sony has one that they rolled out, but that they're going to be expanding. So you will be able to get effectively cable via internet. Now, how the packages and bundles and whether it's all a la carte remains to be seen as far as linear TV. And then, of course, there's endless amounts. Everybody, you know, you can stream anything. I mean, every week I turn on my Roku and there's more streaming channels that pop up. I was watching, actually the last few days I've been watching the storm coverage on News On, which is the Roku app, so I could dial up the Washington, New York, and Philly stations.
News On is an interesting app, which I've had it on my Android-based phone. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Peter?
Yeah, so there was actually, I think, for first time, a number of OTT platforms. You know, anything from linear streaming like Sling TV or New Lion was there as well, with a slightly different offering. It's mostly sports, kind of a tier 2, tier 3 sports, a lot of ethnic programming, niche programming, but pretty impressive user interface. So they were there as well. Netflix was obviously there as well. So the whole the OTT world is beginning to invade CES as well. On kind of related note, there was actually one content company there. It was a sci-fi channel. And very small booth, but apparently on behalf of the entire NBC Universal, they running this interactive social viewing lab where they're working on bringing enhanced or augmented viewing experience. So things like they had a demo with the virtual reality, had a demo where through the app, while you were viewing the on the smart TVs, when you were viewing their content, you could, let's say, bring up map of the solar system that a sci-fi movie is taking place, right, and the description of the characters and things like that. So while in the past I saw ESPN, I saw NBC, Universal, the whole family, Sony Pictures at the show this year, that was really the only programmer that I could find.
Something they've been doing interesting is they had a new series on The Expanse, and they were showing the first, I think, 3 episodes were a stream available before they hit regular broadcast television, which was kind of interesting. You could see it weeks before it hit air.
CBS gonna do with the Star Trek.
Yeah,
well,
they're
yeah,
saying it will only be available, I
Yes.
think, or via streaming.
Yeah, another cool thing they had at the sci-fi booth, they were showing if you use the sci-fi app when you're watching the channel and you have the Philips Hue lights next to your TV, that it'll actually expand out the color palette from the show and actually brighten up the room.
I thought Philips died when they tried to push that as their TV format with the LEDs on this.
Before we go too far, because there's a ton of stuff here, a number of you have brought, and if you can switch the streaming to see it, I don't know if you did yet, to see that screen. People who are streaming, you should now see a slide from Crystal, and hit F5. It should actually, yep. If you're watching on streaming, you should see the slide from Crystal. Roger, you brought in a number of things. Can you?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and cycle through it. Can you go ahead and go to the next slide? That's the intro slide. Okay,
One more next slide.
Well, the 5 big things I saw up there: the vehicle automation, robots, wearables, home automation, 3D printers, and of course video. Some of the driving. For those of you who have known Crystal for a while, you'll remember that our previous system was on QNX platform, which was purchased by Harman Kardon, which was then purchased by BlackBerry, and this in the upper right-hand corner is BlackBerry's booth, and it was all about QNX and connected vehicles and cars talking to other cars. That happened to be a pretty nice Mercedes, and then of course NVIDIA video chip manufacturer is all about driving. So I found that interesting. Go ahead and go to the next slide. This is a brief video. If you go to the lower left corner of that slide, click play. Actually, you have to go back now. That's a BMW had an outdoor booth, and they let us drive some of their cars, and some of their cars got to drive people or nobody. And in the middle there, that's an i3 with its lights on, and this i3 drove itself out of the garage on the right side. Guy got into it, drove to the end of the road. He got out, told the car to park itself, and it put itself in that spot. And now the gentleman's coming out of the building, and he wants his car back, so he's going to hail his car over. And so this thing just decides that I'm going to listen to my owner. I'm going to pull on out, and I'll wait for my owner to come get in. So if you're trying to park in a tight parking spot, this thing will certainly do it for you. And I kept the video long enough so we could see the guy walk up and get into the car, which is.
It raises one question for me. Every time I pull out of a parking spot, some idiot walks right behind the car, counting on me to hit the brakes suddenly.
I don't think this one cared.
Well, it certainly proves the Darwin principle. We can.
Yes, absolutely.
We have problems for the first year or two, but after that.
Actually, a lot of them are showing the person avoidance systems. So these things should stop on a dime.
They'll stop. Go ahead.
Probably quicker than you will,
Go ahead and go right.
or at least quicker than you want to.
These are some of the robots. The one in the lower left is simply a toy. The one in the middle is one where the top screen would be a video of somebody you're connected or talking to, your grandparent, whoever on the other end. And then, yeah, the panel on the left, I just thought that was interesting, a robotic window cleaner. So, I mean, you can imagine that on a high rise, or you got a lot of glass in your house. So, and Bob has a picture of the real BB-8. This is just a placard. So go ahead and move forward to the next one. A lot of home automation. The Nucleus device system, that's a home communication system. And near as I can tell, it looks like an intercom for the house from, back in the 70s and 80s. And I kept asking myself, why would you need that? My kids have a phone. If I want to talk to them, I'll call them. But then again, they don't always answer the phone. So, and then of course, a lot of pet stuff where you can remotely interact with your pets and get them to chase laser lights around when you're not in the house. So, my bigger cat could use that because he needs a little exercise. But all right, go ahead to the next one. Some of the 3D printing, I was fascinated by that. The one on the right is obviously a DNA simulation that teachers absolutely loved. $800, PTSA, go buy your school a 3D printer and print stuff like this. Now that one took 800 hours to print, so you might want to do a smaller one. The center is a scanner, and on the left side, this was probably the most interesting printer I saw there. For $5,500, you can get a printer that will thread carbon fiber into your fabrications. So in the lower left corner, you have two pieces identical in shape. The one on the left is pretty flexible. The one on the right has carbon fiber put into it, and it's pretty stiff. They had printed up a link about 6 inches long that held 22,000 pounds before it broke. So for some of us with older cars that need to find parts that are hard to find, this may be an option. You never know. And speaking of 3D, the really next big thing that we all know and love, it will be 4K 3D plus. I saw a couple 3D TVs, didn't stand in front of them too long because I was getting a headache, and I think it's still dead. So
Does the 3D plus mean like at the theme parks it squirts water at you or something?
maybe I don't know, but I shake my head. I'm like, no, it's not worth it. But go on to the next slide, because there was something that was very interesting, and that was this. What you see in the middle is basically a ball of reflective fabric. It's a screen, and if you look on the left and right, you'll see two projectors. There were 4 projectors around this screen, and the image on the screen would rotate. This is a fascinating way to send video out to a mass group of people in a public place. One, it was very clean. I mean, it looked really good. You saw it. I mean, but you could easily scale that up, and just you look at the polls of that video. It was pretty cool. I thought that was nice.
This is actually a Panasonic. This is actually a Panasonic stand. So the flat Kayameta antenna is the one by the monitor, which would be on your left. That's left. This is right here. That's the one of 2 satellite antennas that were at the CES.
Yeah.
Coincidentally.
Yeah. There you go. That was good. So go ahead. That's the next one. They had a very large wall touchscreen, and what they had up there was a computer desktop. That was just interesting to watch. I think Bob has a very similar picture of this 8K Super Ultra HD TV. And obviously the picture doesn't do it justice. It's beautiful. I mean, it looks really, really good. So there were a number of 8K systems out there, and they're impressive.
At
You also had
NAB,
to put
we've
your-
seen NHK with HD for a number of years. Now you're saying there's more people out there with it?
Yes. I mean, there are a few 8K TVs. It's getting the content. So
But you also have to put your nose directly on the screen in order to see
Yeah.
the pixels.
yeah, I mean, you got to get right up to it to see the pixels. But I mean, that's one of those, when you get a chance to see 8K when you're standing 2.5, 3 feet away from it, do it.
And then for most of us, it won't do any good unless you've got these on.
And you need to clean your lenses. So anyway, go ahead. Now, one of the questions that this industry has asked is, all right, you buy a 4K TV, what are you going to watch on it? Because last time I talked to Bob, he's not buying any 4K equipment right now. Well, the reality is that people are going to produce their own 4K camcorders in the upper left-hand corner. Panasonic, not very expensive. Ultra HD Blu-ray players, makes a lot of sense. Next Blu-ray player I'm going to get, it's going to be that. And then, of course, the streaming content. There's a lot of stream sources for 4K content. So as broadcasters, we're a little behind the curve, because these 4K TVs are going to sell. They're going to be in people's homes, and they're going to get used to watching 4K HDR.
You know, that brings up the question. I know the cable industry has been trying to get off MPEG-2 for the longest time, and they can't seem to get away from there. All the boxes they have that won't support it. Now we're talking about doing ultra or 4K,
Yep.
and even 8K possible. But boy, it's going to be tough for them.
Yeah,
actually,
it will.
It's interesting that some of the MSOs are just now starting to migrate to MPEG-4. And I think the reason they're doing that is since HEVC is actually now coming along, now it's time for them to go to MPEG-4.
Right.
Or wouldn't it go to HEV anyway?
Go ahead and go to the next slide. Now this was the real fun. Got to drive the i8, beautiful car, tough to get into and out of. Once you're in it, you really don't want to get out of it though, but you do have to crawl your way out. The M3 is quite a machine. I drive a 2002 M5, so I'm kind of used to the M cars. These things were built for the track. These things are amazing. Drove an X6M, and then the steering wheel is from behind the wheel of an M5, which the new M5s are marvelous. So
There was somebody supposedly, I think at the CES show, who was showing a prototype for what was called the Tesla Killer,
that's probably the i8.
the i8. It was a
Yeah.
brand new company. It wasn't BMW
Okay.
or anybody.
Okay.
It's out
I
of
didn't see it.
China that supposedly is supposed to.
I wouldn't buy a vehicle from China right now, but it may have been on the floor, but I didn't see it.
They were talking about 0 to 60 in 3 seconds or something like that.
Yeah.
It was 1,000 horsepower electric.
Yeah, so it starts with an F and it's a new startup. It's only one person can drive it.
Right, and it doesn't even exist. It was just
Yeah, spent $1 billion or something on the R&D.
something ridiculous.
But these are quite the machine. The in the upper left is a 7 Series. I spent all of my time in the back seat of that car, and the assistant, the BMW employee assistant, actually had to go find out how to turn off the child protection feature because I was unable to recline the back seat till that went off, and then I could relax and turn the massage on, and really, it's pretty nice. So.
Unfortunately, you lose a lot of range in the electric car if you turn the massager on.
That you don't care about that one's fuel driven, but so they were nice. So I think that's it. So
Who's Bob? Do you want to do yours next?
Yep, he'll bring it up.
Whose is that? Hold on, let's get the right file up.
You can skip the first picture. Or
Is that yours, Bob? Oh yeah.
Yep. All right, so I've got a lot of pictures. So I'm going to go fast.
And
Next picture.
He's off.
You're not going to talk slow at your normal rate?
This was the 170-inch TV that was actually, I think, 8 panels. It was very big. It looked really amazing. You go to the next one. I think I got a couple of those. And then, of course, just, when you walk in the big booths, LG, like I said, OLED, Samsung, and then, more some of the quantum dots, that kind of stuff. You can go to the next one. Yeah, you go to the next one. Just some of the pictures I took. That was the 170 again. You go to the next one. And then that was the 8K, right? That's 8K, yeah. You go to the next picture. And this is an example of SDR versus HDR. So I thought even in taking a picture, you can see what a difference. Incredible. Next slide. A lot of the crazy cars you see.
The monitor we're looking at is all SDR.
Yeah. It's an example between. But anyways, go to the next slide. Just a lot of cars. You can go to the next slide. Just you see a lot of vehicles. One thing I was going to mention is Jack was talking about the different halls. Like I said, just so you know, the North Hall, Rick can disagree with me, but the North Hall used to be all cars. And over the period of years, it became like half car, like car radio systems. It was all car speakers that are, this big, 10,000 watt amplifiers for your car that were strapped on the side. Just, mega aught cable and all that stuff is crazy. And then you had all these Asian companies, like Chinese or Korean companies, just tons of booths of their stuff they're trying to show and trying to sell. Well, this year, that whole hall was pretty much cars. I mean, it was pretty much all automotive, so a lot of automotive, a lot of big booths.
But in the old days, it was all car audio.
Right.
Now it's the cars themselves.
It's the cars themselves, right? Go to the next one. See, I'm trying with that. Go to the next slide. You go next. There's just more monitor pictures. Keep going. Super high definition. Here, the thing is, they started showing some of this last year, but they have basically you have like a washer that goes under. You know how the front loading stuff. You know how they sell the stands? Well, this is the base, so it's a washer for your delicates that you would put in there that you don't want to put in with your big washer. So that was interesting. Go to the next one. Refrigerators, I think go to the next step because I think there's a better picture there. Oh, go back. I got that one out of order. Anyways, refrigerators interesting. Now they have cameras in them. There's a refrigerator slide coming up, but basically, when you load the stuff in the refrigerator, you type in the expiration date. So now you stop at the grocery store on the way home, and you know what you need to buy based on what's expired or not. Also, it's connected on the app, right, with your wife, right, with your spouse. So that way, if she stops at the store and gets eggs, you know what I mean, you don't stop and get eggs because you look at the list and it's already been removed. And there's a camera in the refrigerator, and the camera, so you could say, I just don't remember if that was in the fridge. Well, you just open up the app and see the camera, and you can see what's in the fridge. Or you can see what the kids took.
They didn't put barcode or RFID on the food, so
no.
you could.
Keurig does that now. Go to the next slide. This I thought was really interesting for any ladies, Meredith in the room. This was really interesting. This was that's actually my daughter sitting there. It was a mirror with LED lights and it lights up. But here's what's crazy. There's a camera, and really good camera, and it shows you on the screen, and it captures your face. It tracks your face. And I have a little video, but I couldn't get it to play right. But anyways, basically, you're picking your blush, your eyeshadow, your lip liner, you know, your lipstick, everything you pick on the screen, it paints it on your face. So basically, you paint your face, you put everything on, and it tracks. So if you're moving, your eyebrows are moving and everything. And then once you're done, you just say, this is what I want, and then hit print, and then it'll print out a list of all those makeups you need to make yourself look that way.
There's no 3D arm that comes out.
No. So this would be
Jetsons.
This would be more of a. I'll never get through this if you keep doing that. Anyways, but basically this is something like, this is expensive, right? But this is something like you could see like at Sephora or something like that. It was very impressive. Go to the next one. I mean, it worked really well. They wanted my daughter to stay there all day because she was so good at running it. Okay, this was there like a storefront. You're seeing the monitor. And then I don't know what they call it, but you know where you see through. There was a lot of this. And go to the next slide. Now you're seeing through it. It's kind of hard to see in the picture because of reflection. But basically, you know what I'm saying? You're seeing a screen, and it's a window. And then they turn it off, and you see perfectly through it, and you see the actual items they're trying to sell behind it. So that was, and there was some stuff in the living room that way too that Panasonic. I think who was showing it?
Panasonic was showing it.
Panasonic, yeah, thank you. Go to the next one. I got to get faster. Some more cars. Next one. And this, I think this was that big LED wall, big huge thing that Panasonic was doing. Go to the next slide. This was interesting. So this was a kitchen, and it's a modern kitchen. Basically, what you have is, you know how you have like the air vent thing on top of your big kitchen? Well, there's cameras in there that's looking down, and there's a big tablet. Did you see this? I don't know if you saw it. It was really cool. So basically, there's a big tablet there, and so you say, I want to make, a pot roast or whatever, and you hit it, and it tells you every single thing to pull out of the fridge, put in the pan. The oven turns on, it sets the temperature. If you got to start low and simmer and come up, it does it automatically. It stirs the food for you so it doesn't burn. It basically makes the food. And then they had examples there. And then the refrigerators, everything was all really, really cool. And then go to the next slide. They were showing just this kind of modern thing. There you see a pizza laying there. Once you're all done, there's your pizza. But like I said, the camera's looking down on you, you know what I mean? Because it's monitoring what you're doing, and it's advancing you through the step process. Go to the next one. This was a TV that also was where you could see through it. And the interesting thing is it goes up and down, and it was all motorized. It was really cool. You saw that too, right? And what was neat about it is their idea was, right, is that you see TV, but now, right, you want it to be that nice, living room you're having guests over. The wife doesn't want the TV anymore. Well, you hit I think it'll do it. If you go to the next slide, let's see if it's there. That's when it lowered down, and then there's one where you see through. It's a piece of glass, literally a piece of glass. And then, by the way, the last one was they dropped it way down there, saying now you wanted the kids to watch cartoons, right? You can drop it down, and they're at their level sitting on the floor. Go to the next one. Also, by the way, all the different surround sound, you can actually have the sound come focal point wherever you're sitting. So all the different sounds. Did you want to throw something in? Please jump in.
Oh, with the Panasonic glass, they had it also where it would go part opaque, and then they would have, like, you could listen to music, and it was also voice activated too. You could talk to it.
Yes.
Select music.
Awesome.
And it would, like, you could see through the window, but then it would have like waves and different effects and stuff on it.
So the guy, I think he said, like, I want some 70s music, and all of a sudden the Bee Gees start playing.
Yeah.
So anyway, go to the next one. A lot of driving stuff. A lot of smart, a lot of smartware, a lot of watches. You can go to the next one because I got more stuff coming. Steadicam, I thought you some of the old broadcasters thought this was kind of neat. This is their little Steadicam that's like $150. That's a new one out. But go to the next slide. This is the Movi hooked up to the Steadicam, which is crazy because that's kind of a competition to it. But anyways, they were hooking it together to show what they could do with DSLR shooting. One thing you might find interesting is that they were celebrating the 40th anniversary of the Steadicam. And does anybody here remember the first movie? No, not you. Rocky and The Shining. That was the first two movies. So anyway, so they were there showing off. They were celebrating their 40th anniversary of the Steadicam. I thought that was kind of cool. Next one. This was that refrigerator that has the camera in it. Next one. There's the tighter shot with so it's got a monitor on the front. By the way, the monitors on the refrigerator now, they show you the temperature, the weather, you know what I'm saying, all that stuff. So you can pick your news. So as you're making your coffee and as you're getting your milk or whatever to put in the coffee, whatever, you can see everything you want to see on your refrigerator. Next one. This was the virtual reality stuff. That was the Sony Playroom one that you guys said you had to wait forever for. Okay, this was the, what do you call it, short throw projection, and I think Rick's got some pictures in here too. But anyways, this one that's that little tiny box sitting on the desk, by the way, that's projecting that's right up against the wall. Go to the next one. Now we get to a bigger screen. That is sitting right against the wall, that unit is. And it was really neat. And then they had one, did you see the one over the bed? So like if you're laying in bed, you're looking up on the ceiling. Anyways, but their whole thing was, go from working to the living room. And then they were saying, oh, I want to be at the beach while I do this or something, right? And then I think, is there another slide in there? If I took it out or not? Yeah, there. So now you're sitting there, doing something on your computer or whatever, doing some work or something, talking to somebody, and you're on the beach. So that's just projected on a regular white wall. That was, I know it's a scary picture, isn't it? This was the laser projector, which Rick can jump in here. You all know about laser projectors, and North Point has one up here at the cinema. Anyways, this was laser for the home, and it looked really cool. But as Rick said,
this one they had two projectors
very
over.
Expensive.
Yeah, this was Sony's booths, and they were showing off two $40,000 projectors overlapping
for home.
I'll get some of my
Okay.
pictures. I have some much more economical.
Oh, thank you. Go to the next one. That's actually the projector. More screens. Go next one. By the way, I don't know about you. I saw less curve screens. I'm not a curve fan. Go to the next one. Oh, laser. That was laser projection again. By the way, that's where that was a laser that was just right in front of the screen. It's just amazing. You go to the next one. That was Intel's booth, showing a lot of technology. Next one. Hisense, I talked about them, of course, buying Sharp's panel factory. So they had a lot of stuff. That was another company I never heard of before. Showing off. You saw that booth? It was huge. Next one. This, of course, we talked about Dish Network doing 16 channels at once. Next one. Another car, keep going. We'll get through them here. Okay, this, I don't know if you guys know it, this is kind of interesting. Hypershop showed this last year, and other companies were showing it. Basically, it's lightning on one side for the Apple people and USB on the other side, and it's a memory stick. So what's cool is, how you run out of memory on your phone or your iPad, or you're like, I want to let the kids watch some movies on a trip or something. Well, you just stick it in your phone or, your iPad, and you have this whole, now you have 16, 32, 64 gig, whatever you want on there, and then you stick the other end in and copy the files over. So it's kind of a neat idea. Next one. This was very, so they were talking about pet stuff earlier. So the one on the left is a feeder and a waterer with a camera in it that you can watch from your phone, so you can see your dogs and talk to them. And you can decide when to feed them, when to water them, give them water. You can decide. You can do it by time of day, or you can just say, hey, they look really hungry. I need to dump some more food out. The next thing over was a foot washer where you put the dog, which in Atlanta we need that. It's been raining for 2 months. And then the last one is a ball shooter that shoots the ball out. The dog gets it. Yes, and it's funny. And it comes, wait to hear this. It comes back, and if the dog puts the ball back in the right spot, a little treat pops out. So they get a treat. Next one. If you all seen this has been out for a while, but they just keep it making better and better every year. But this is a great thing for your Apple or Android device that hooks onto the phone. One side's a wide-angle lens, and one side is a magnifier. Go to the next slide. I think my daughter took this picture, but look at that. That's a baby. You see how those little dice, how small those dice are? That's the dice, and it was perfectly in focus. So this is really cool. She's into teaching and classroom stuff, so this was interesting to her. And by the way, it depends which way you flip it over, right? Which lens you get. And the little plastic thing is because it's got to raise it up and let the light in. Of course, next one. This was I was saying about the Bluetooth locks earlier. So you just sit there and just boom, touch your phone, and boom, the lock just pops open. Next one, of course, a lot of connecting USB and a lot of breakout USB type stuff to different devices. Next one, also charging, by the way, right? Because we're all charging so many places. Solar panel that rolls up. Go ahead. Next one. This, if anybody has an Apple Watch, this was HyperShop. They have a box. You just set the watch in the box and then close the lid and wake up in the morning. It's fully charged because it's it's an inductive. Next one. What was that? That was a big VR. I think it's VR, big driving simulation thing. Yeah, go to the next one. That was in the North Hall. Okay, this was the Marshall smartphones, by the way. I don't think I got a tight shot of it, but that's kind of, you see all the people in the booth. Next one. Let me see, keep going here. That was the new Volt, 200 miles, I believe, pure electric, all electric. Next one, that was another inside the car. That was the Nova, whatever it's called. Next one, we'll skip over the car stuff since I know you guys got more stuff there. Oh, that was the Volkswagen, right? That was the Volkswagen minivan. That's electric and everything. Parrot, of course, they're all the drones flying, like you said, tons of drones. Go to the next one. That was more smartwatches. Next one. That was a USB-C breakout because Apple's gone to USB-C now with the new devices, so you need a breakout for it. And this was interesting. If you're a biker, now go to the next slide. You'll see a close-up of it. You just hook that on yourself, and you see the arrows. It actually has a LED system that's telling people which way you're turning. It's a turn signal on your back. Go to the next one. Is that crazy? This is so redneck, but this is like a baseball cap that holds your smartphone so you can walk around and shoot videos with it. Can you
The new version of the selfie stick.
Exactly. Go to the next one. Zag, I really like. Go to the next one. They have, they're really known for the cell phone covers, stuff like that. They're doing them free at the show, but they're portable battery systems. I just got a new one. It's really nice. I really like it. Of course, a lot of people are getting extra batteries now because they're running out of power before the end of the day. Go to the next one. That, of course, a lot of cameras, a lot of GoPro competition. GoPros, I don't know if you followed what's going on with the stocks and everything, but they're not selling like they were. I guess everyone has them, and so anyways, they didn't have much at the booth to show at all. Nothing new. Go to the next one. And this was more, of course, more devices. You can go to the next one. Let's see. We'll get to the end. Oh, so next thing, DxO. I thought this was really interesting. This is a 21 megapixel 1-inch sensor camera, and basically what you do is, thank you. What you do is you push the button down and the lightning connector pops out and you plug it into your phone, and now this is like having a full DSLR. So you can do shutter priority, aperture priority. It does everything a DSLR will do, 21 megapixels, and it looks incredible. So go to their website, take a look at the pictures and the video. It does video. You can do, like I said, you can set your aperture, your ISO, everything. You can fully manually override everything. Really cool. There's a memory stick, a micro SD inside. It'll record to that or the phone, and it does video. It'll do 30, 60, and 120 frames. I think it drops down to 720. It'll do 1080p, but if you want 120 frames a second, it's 720p, which is still pretty daggone impressive. Anyways, really cool device, and you can rotate it however you want. And as somebody said, you can flip it around and have the highest quality resolution selfie you ever had.
And you don't
anyway,
need
so this was really neat. Go ahead.
Oh, and you don't need the phone in order to use it.
Yeah,
It's
you don't
its
need
own camera.
the phone. You can actually I'm taking a picture of you guys right now, and then you can do it a video mode, and then you can plug it in and everything and charge it and everything. I thought it was really cool. $5.99. They sent me one to play with. So go to the next one. I thought it was really cool. Nanook was there showing their cases. What I thought was interesting is you all know Pelican is really got the market since they bought Storm in the United States. This is a Canadian company, but the big thing is these cases, they're for drones. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, because so many people are buying drones and they need cases for them, and it's just they had tons of them there. You can go to the next one. And of course, they were showing their new little cases, which were really cool for iPhones and for like putting credit cards and wallets and things in there. It was really cool. Next one, there's a drone. You go to the next slide. So this was more of the virtual reality stuff where you got in there and you could run and everything. It was absolutely incredible. More drones. Keep going. And then, of course, Star Wars was in one of the booths. You go to the next slide, and the BB-8 was there. There was more drones. Keep going. There's so many of them.
More drones.
And then keep going. Let's see. We're almost to the end, I think. Oh, last thing. This was the 3D printing, and all that food was. This is printed food. And so if you go to the next slide, you can see my daughter is eating the edible food. So it was pretty neat. You go to the next slide. Last thing I'm gonna say is this. What was interesting about this is that this was a oh gosh, how do you say it? for a dog that lost its legs, and so they made it
Prosthetic.
Yeah,
prosthetic
yeah.
that was made on the 3D printer, and it was really interesting story. Did you hear the story? But anyways, they had I forget the name of the dog, but anyways, basically the dog had lost front of his legs, and so they made these on a 3D printer and put him on it, and it completely changed his life. And they were showing him running and jumping and everything, and it was really incredible. So there was a big 3D printing booth. Go to the next one. They had some really cool. That's a guitar that was printed with a 3D printer. I thought that was neat. Next one. And let's see more. Oh, this was a beer. So basically, your Keurig. This makes beer. You put all the ingredients in, and it makes it in 2 hours. Is that crazy? And they were given free samples at the show. And anyway, so at IBC, this would be.
I thought you
this
were
would be
going to
everywhere.
talk about 3D printed beer.
No, it's actually beer that was made. Oh, by the way, and you can buy recipes. Like, let's say you said, I like Sweetwater. You know what I mean, right? You can buy a recipe and pay like $10 or $15 and make your own beer. It was, go to the next one. And this was the closet that folds your clothes. You go to the next one. It wasn't fully working, by the way. That was the drone that you can that can go out and get people and bring them back home. Right? That was it.
The one-man drone.
The one-man drone. Go ahead and keep going. And this was lastly. This was I thought it was funny. This is a Fitbit for your pet. And anyways, and she had some free ones there. She gave me one. We put it on the dog, and it was like it's telling you how many minutes it's being active a day. So it was there. They were from the UK.
We purchased one of those as well.
Did you? And this is interesting. Lastly, this is a Bluetooth speaker, and the high end floats in midair. It's
Magnetic.
Magnetic, and then the bottom is the subwoofer. It looked really cool, and it sounded really good. Go to the next one, and then you want to say something, and then the next one, that was a black version of it, white version. This was for your Wi-Fi router at home, where it supposedly amplifies the signal and makes it more directional. They swear there was a company down in there that needed Wi-Fi, and they could not get their booth to work at all, and they took that unit over, stuck it in there, and they got the signal. It worked. So that was interesting.
Well,
and then
Pringles cans worked good 10 years ago.
yeah, and then lastly, I thought some of you guys might find this interesting audio. So a lot of work for school and stuff. This was a bunch of headsets for the school, and what it was, you see how the connectors just plug together. So basically, you don't have to have these all amplified type splitter type systems. You just hook the headphones together. Of course, you get to a point where the impedance, of course, will kill you. Anyways, next one, and then this last thing, I think this is the end. Thank you. This was a cooker that uses solar, and you pull that solar thing out. This was in the bottom of the sands, way back in the back, but it was interesting because it made some of the list. But anyways, basically you put your raw meat in there, whatever you want to put in there, you close it, and it cooks at 400 degrees, and by the sun. And I thought that was interesting. Is that the last one? Okay.
Yeah.
One of the Internet of Things, they had a shoe insert that you could put in your shoe, and it would measure pressure points on your foot, walk, velocity, distance traveled, all that kind of stuff, which is pretty neat. And Lexus did have a real hoverboard there. Okay, not the one with the wheels. This was a real one though. The only problem is it hovers over a superconductor rail that needs to be really, really cold. But it
At
does
absolute zero.
It does hover, and you can stand on it.
I'm watching this going, my God, this is 40 years too late. I was watching this on the Jetsons 40 years
I
ago.
have one more thing I got to show you. I thought this was really cool. I was showing some guys earlier. This is a company that's doing AA and AAA batteries, and if you pull the top off, this is a USB connector that charges it. I thought that was really, really cool. It's good for 500 charges. So they sell them in 4-packs, and they had their latest version there. And the AAA either has a you can do, I think either you say, because the USB is the width of it, is micro USB, or actually they have one, actually it's the craziest thing, it's a USB connector that flips out. So literally you get 2 pins, the other pins flip out. That was kind of neat. But anyways, 500, and it is 1.5 volts, not like the old 1.25 volts. Anyway, so if anybody wants to see it, it's really good. We'll pass it around. All right, good, Rick.
Okay, so I started off going retro as soon as I walked in. And this was, go to next one. Yes. Okay. Okay, go to the next one. Okay. Yeah, so Kodak was pushing Super 8 film cartridges. Yes, that's right. The same stuff that we all grew up with. I was like, okay, Kodak has definitely hit bottom here. But yeah, they were pushing it because they said, since the folks who went retro now like LPs, they figured maybe they'd like Super 8 film.
Yeah,
the
it's also Urban Outfitters brand.
yeah.
Back in, no.
So they actually are making Super 8 film cartridges again. And I was like, okay. Anyway, okay, next. And next. Yeah, super. Next. Okay, so here we have your drones in every shape and size. These are little drone balls that just sort of flew around. The picture I took just has them sitting on the ground. But it's not just, helicopter. It's fully encased. Theory being is if it bumps into you or hits you, it's not going to slice anything off because it's all inside of a sealed, sealed sphere. Okay, next. Okay, next. Okay, hit play. Let's see if this works. So I don't know why the pause thing's in the middle, so ignore the pause in the middle. Something about the laptop. So there we have drones hovering and flying. And this one is fully articulated. I don't, if you don't want to watch the guy, he'll push it and pull it, and it'll go back right to where he left it. And so he's batting it around. He's pushing it. He's pulling it. He's trying to tip it. No matter what he does, as soon as he lets go, it goes right back into position. Yeah. So, okay, next one if you can. I didn't on my laptop, okay? And I think it's taken off. More drones. I know we've seen enough drones. Okay, just skip this. Go to the next one. Well, okay, now we have not only drones for air, but now we have drones for underwater. Yes, you can now purchase your own ROV if you want to do remote-controlled underwater photography or anything like that. So it's not like it goes in the air, but it goes in the water. Okay, next. Yeah. Next. Okay, if your Wi-Fi, if it wasn't good enough, this is 6.5 gigabits per second Wi-Fi. Basically, it uses every band known to mankind simultaneously with 4-channel, 4-antenna MIMO on each one. So yeah, it'll do about approximately 6.4 gigabits Wi-Fi across the spectrum, including.
Of course, I have Comcast, so.
but for accessing stuff in your house and accessing video or for that matter uncompressed video or whatever you happen to have, or for offices because it also has all the extended range. So this is like everything you can put into a Wi-Fi router. Okay, next. Okay, next. Once again, we talked to Fitbit. Talked about all the bio wearables. There was lots of that stuff there. Next. Spalding, everybody we know. Next. Fitbit. Yes, there were people on treadmills the whole show.
That was a shoe insert.
Yeah.
Right.
Fit insert. Okay, yes, fit insert. Yeah. Okay, next. We've already covered a lot of this before. Hit play. This is just a panoramic shot of all the, at least from all you can see from one area of all of the bio wearables. One interesting thing, 2 years ago when they came out with this, they had a problem. And the big problem was it was mostly in watches, and the watches were too big for most women to wear. And so the complaints that have been coming around is what do you do for ladies who just can't wear this big, huge, bulky watch? So what almost everybody did this year is they said, okay, we'll take the watch and we'll build pouches into bra straps. So, and then you'll have either a smaller watch, at least for the display you have to have, or you can monitor on your smartphone. And almost all the manufacturers have done that. They've sort of determined that in the testing they've done with the test groups and all that, that most women find it acceptable to stick the electronics for measuring their heart rate, their respiration, their blood pressure, their blood oxygen into the bra strap. So that seems to have finally been the solution, because the last 2 years has been, this is great, women can't wear it or won't wear it. So, okay.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Was that TomTom the same TomTom?
Yes.
It is.
Yes. You're having a lot of convergence. The people who come up, the technology companies, since there is a market for wearables and stuff like that, they're going to get into that. It's a related technology to the type of stuff that they've done before. So you have everybody, you have a lot of companies getting into each other's space.
Yeah, I thought they were gone.
Yeah.
The question was, is that TomTom that was the same TomTom we saw with GPS?
Yeah. Well, actually, they aren't gone because a great deal of the intellectual property in your GPS they own. So even if you're not buying TomTom, you're giving them lots of money. Okay. Various iDevices, remote controllable interactive devices next. We have lights next. Yeah, as we've seen, these are already in the store. I thought it was funny 3 years ago when the regulations started coming down that incandescent lights were being phased out. That was the time that all of a sudden retro light bulbs came into vogue. And of course, as these are available already in Home Depot, but now we have LED retro light bulbs.
You can control the color with your iPhone.
Yes, yeah, you can do whatever you want. So it's like, and actually, and it looks, as you've seen them in, Home Depot, they look amazingly convincing too. Okay, next. So iDevice is next. We'll skip that. Okay, hit play. Here's BB-8 rolling all over the place, little miniature one. A little on his side there, but yeah. And it's all magnetic. His head pops right off. And okay. These are interesting. So take a close look at that. It looks even better in person. It's very impressive. Next. That's not go back, leave it there. It's not something I did in the thing. There's no glass. It really looks like that stuff is floating in midair. Next. Slimer. Next. Okay, hit play.
There you go.
It's not projected. I'll show you in a second. But the key is when you're standing there looking at it, I was confused as to what I was seeing myself. Yeah. Okay. Next. Okay, hit play on this one too. Yes, you don't see it when you're standing there.
The question is the artifact?
Yes, yeah. If you're there, you
just
don't see
in
the
the
artifact.
camera?
Okay, next. I'll get into. That's what you actually have. It's actually a spinning fan with an LED on it, and you can't see it because it's moving so fast. And next. So this is high speed. Okay, hit play here. And this is a high shutter speed on the camera, so you can see what it's actually doing. But the thing is, I was looking and I was confused as to what I was seeing because there's one going on. I think I've got the next one. Yeah, you can see a little bit of the artifacts in there. I think I've got the motor in one of these. Some of them appeared to be getting bigger and smaller, and I could swear that I thought whatever this thing was I was looking at, I thought it was on some kind of a device that had slid forward and slid back because I'd swear it was moving towards me, and I'd swear it was moving back. It was all totally in the illusion, but it wasn't. It's just this spinning fan type of device with LEDs on it. You can be at a reasonable angle. Go on. I think I've got a. Yeah. Anyway, back up one. Yeah. So it was. Don't hit play. No, it's okay. Actually hit play. So there he is, and he. So it was thoroughly convincing when you're standing there, but it's all an illusion. It's a flat spinning fan. Okay, next. This was interesting. This was in the best of. These are computer controlled air vents for your house. So you can put vents on all throughout your house. It all goes back to a central control system, which controls your furnace or your air conditioning, and it can adjust the temperature separately in each and every room. All Wi-Fi controlled. So all you need to do is you put in a new thermostat, put these vents on. It all ties into your Wi-Fi, and you can set the temperature. You have a little battery-operated stick-up thermostat in every room, and you can have different temperatures in different rooms. Obviously, with how efficient it is, that's another question. Next. Yes, well, you can't really tell from here. Yes, that is an electronic beer keg. I don't know I know it has great practical value. I don't know if it's really great technology, but hey, I figured we could all use a picture of that. Yes, retro. Who wants your tube-type amplifier for your headphones? Yes. Not me, actually. No, I don't. I don't want to change them. Be going.
How else will I listen to the sound from the Super 8 film cartridge?
Yes, good point. Oh, I didn't mention it because I didn't get to it. The sound from the Super 8 cameras is actually on a memory stick. They didn't bother putting the mag tracks on the Super 8. It does do sound, but that's recorded separately on a memory stick, and the cameras also record SD thumbnail of the picture that you record on your film. I didn't bother getting into that, but they do.
And you can also send in the film to Kodak. Yeah. I think it's like $40 or something to actually have them digitize it into 4K.
Yeah. I don't. No. They said that just like it ain't gonna fit. Anyway. Okay. Once again, printable. Yeah, here's your printable arm. So yeah, you can print prosthetics. You mentioned the one for the dog. That's one for human. Next.
Think of Halloween.
And here's your printable people. I also had this in the slide from last year, but yeah, that was still there. So go in the booth, scan yourself, and get a full 3D print of yourself. Okay, next. Okay, the covered TVs already. So once again, we mentioned all this stuff. We can go through this stuff quickly. Next. So we have all the TVs. This is interesting. This is a dual view flat OLED. So here's the view from the front. And here's the view from the back. And no, it's not a mirror. It's actually so there's actually two OLED screens back to back. So obviously for displays and bars and whatever, it's a very interesting piece of technology. So it displays on both sides. I'm certain we'll be seeing that signage very soon all over the place. This is actually the same Sony short throw projector that Bob had earlier. Shot of TCL. That's another one of the players. Once again, we mentioned Panasonic is out of the TV business. Panasonic's out of the TV business. Here's Optimum. This is their short throw laser projector. The HD version, they're hoping it'll list for about 4K. So their 2K is 4K. And it made really, really good pictures on an ultra short throw laser projector. Next. Here's the 100-inch laser cast. Bob had a picture of that too. So that's another. Go back to that. Yes, that's another one. That was a 4K laser projector. So you're going to see lots of laser projectors. Projectors are coming back because of the laser. And these things, some of these are designed. And one of the things is when you can, using a lenticular screen of the right type, you can make it so that the only brightness that is projected forward is what comes from below. Anything that comes from the side or from the top isn't reflected back at you. So you can use this in a bright room because the lights from above or the lights from the side will not bounce horizontally back at you.
They're absorbed.
Well, they're bounced upward. So if you're sitting down and you're or regular eyeball height in a very bright room, you can still use the projector. And that's an advantage of coming in from below, as long as there's no bright lights below. Very good.
What about off-axis was the question?
Off-axis is very good. Yeah, the off-axis was very good. You could walk around it. Once again, it's all if you have to. Once again, never mind looking close at the screen to see the pixels. Look close at the screen to see the curvature of the screen. And they make it so that the light that comes this way bounces off horizontally. Light that comes in from the sides, goes up. So basically, anything coming in from the sides is going to be reflected upward. So the only light you're going to see is what's coming from down below, and it reflects outward too. And of course, you got plenty of light with laser. So it works really well. It looks really good, even in a bright environment. That was in Hisense. It'll have the Sharp name on it in the U.S. It will be, yeah. So there's Optima again. Sorry. There was their 4K. Looked gorgeous. No price on that yet. I was actually talking to the guy. He said they would like to charge $14K for it. But then he followed up. He says, that's what we'd like to charge. I asked him what the manufacturing cost was, and he wouldn't say. He just said a lot less than $14K. So, and of course, cars, Kia. Let's go run through these since they've been covered. I mean, every car manufacturer you can think of was there.
Can you go back for a second to one slide? That was the slide I was talking about. They tell me that texting you can't do in cars because it's too distracting. And then I saw this picture.
Yeah, that one was a police car. Oh, was it? Yeah. Yeah. Well, the thing is, though, I think their concept is you will be able to text, you will be able to watch television because you won't actually be driving. Well, as you probably know, with the Chrysler thing where somebody sort of hacked into it, it turns out that they actually had to go in the car and do something to make it hackable. But they were able to, you probably saw in the news about 6 months ago, hack into Chrysler products, which is why Chrysler actually, for the first time, you talked about the download. Chrysler actually came out with a user downloadable recall for these cars because the issue was how long was the turnover time and people were freaking out. So they actually made software downloadable so that you could download it at home, put it on a memory stick. There's a place to plug it in your car. They gave you little instructions what to hit, like on your radio, hit the horn 3 times, open and close the door twice or whatever. And it would take the code download. And they did this about 6 months ago. Yeah.
A question in the back. Hold on. Go ahead, Rick, talk for a second while I run back here.
Da, 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 da. Oh, music on hold.
Were these dash products all OEM or are there some aftermarket overlays?
Everything, let's put it this way, who actually manufactures stuff, who knows, since the electronic parts of the companies have all been partly spun off anyway.
Yeah, a lot of both.
Yeah. So, okay, next. And more cars and driving and self. Yeah, by the way, in case you don't want lead acid battery for your car, yes, if you have a standard car and you really want power, you can replace your car battery with a lithium-ion battery, with some serious
That way
power
you can,
capacity.
You can drive your 10,000 watt amplifier for audio.
Yes. Yeah. Concept cars. Actually, now we had the self-driving cars. Let's go to the next one. That should be the. Oh, well, it says the one. Okay, so hit play. Here's a little bunch of miniature self-driving Priuses.
Looks like Atlanta traffic.
Yeah, but yep. But that's exactly the thing. It shows that the actual collision avoidance system, even though it's a miniature, is exactly the same as is in the full-size cars. And it shows these cars driving around and and avoiding each other.
On the left side of the road, of course.
Yeah. Okay, next. Yeah. Yep. And there's all the, it went into all the telemetry that's taken and how it's able to figure out what's where. Okay, next. Skip that. There's the hopper. Okay, we have the augmented reality. There's what initially looks like headphones, except if you put them down, they're also 3D visual. So next. So you can go into your virtual world.
I saw Geordi wearing that on Star Trek.
Yeah. Okay. And people in their virtual world, more virtual. Yes, we even have 3D glasses and virtual worlds from Lowe's. Concept is walk into your virtual house. And yes, that's what it takes to make it. Yeah, look at all those cameras. Now you'll notice they cheat on the up above. It's only 3D for most of the horizontal plane. The actual up above, if you look up cameras, they're not 3D anymore. So it's actually shooting a full virtual world. Next. And here's some more retro. Yes, they had pinball machines and long lines there. Bob mentioned power. We have your lithium-ion survival package. Ever since Sandy hit, there's been a lot of solar-powered battery disasters type of stuff there. And quite a few companies now are marketing stuff like these lithium-ion power packs for domestic use. Internationally, they've been widely used for years. I mean, as a lot of you know, you go into third world countries, there is no power, there is no running water, yet they do have their smartphone because it's quite easy to put a 4G, LTE transmitter up on top of the mountain and cover the village with LTE, even if they have no power and no running water.
Did you see any of the approaches where they talk about putting enough solar cells on your house to help offset, feed power back to the grid and then battery when?
That's a whole nother meeting. And Nevada and California are doing everything they can to mess that up right now. So it's a shame Chris isn't here. Right now. He'd be going off right now. Okay, he wants a goal zero, more of that, more chargers, more power stuff, more solar panels. Okay, where's all this stuff come from? At CES, there are this year it was at the former Hilton, now the Westgate, formerly the LVH, were all the Southeast Asian booths, little booths, thousands of them. And these are little tiny booths, and this is where the stuff is really manufactured. It's all the little manufacturing companies in Southeast Asia. And if you go through, you have Hong Kong, you have Korea, you have lots of China, and all the other, Malaysia. And every one of these places has this little product or that little product, which if you go into Fry's or you go into Best Buy and you see the charger or you see the cable and that's where it all comes from. And a lot of the stuff that's inserted, if you buy your new Denon receiver and you have all the cables in there and stuff, they go in OEM, all these little parts from all these companies, and they're all there trying to OEM stuff for anybody who wants to buy it. I mean, and there are thousands of them. Next.
A third of the directory, the first name was Shenzhen.
Yes.
No joke. I mean, a third of
Go on.
every
Go.
company name.
Next. Yeah.
You're better off going
There
to
you
T
go.
and going up.
there you go. Oh, go
Shenzhen.
back one. Go back one. There it is. Yeah. For those of you whose geography isn't great, Shenzhen is actually very near Hong Kong. And the reason for that is import restrictions from Hong Kong are still better than they are from mainland China. So what you have now is all the stuff is manufactured in Shenzhen, taken into Hong Kong, and then from Hong Kong it's shipped into the U.S. With the origination being Hong Kong. And it's, even though we have a lot of trade with China, it's still easier to legally to ship from Hong Kong than it is from Shenzhen, which is why if you've ever been to Hong Kong, you see the world's largest intermodal container port, which goes on forever. And that's where all the stuff that comes to the U.S. from China is going through. Next. Yep, and that's it.
By the way, we're running long on this, but I think it's fantastic. Does anybody have any problems with us running a little long? Dick? Oh, yeah.
We had a question from the computer asking if it's okay. Will the PowerPoints and all the pictures be available to people later, and
Yeah, that's
anybody
fine.
against that?
I'll convert mine to it's not a PowerPoint, but I'll turn mine into a PowerPoint format so it's
Okay.
available.
Thank
yeah,
you.
and I went ahead and added a Word document that has the links to all the different sites for the products and everything that I go over as well.
Yeah, because at the moment my stuff is still 600 meg.
Yeah, fair warning, by the way, for that question. These files are big, and I have a real limitation. SMPTE limits me to 30 megabytes.
Per day?
No, per file. And I've had some real discussions with them, and will continue to do so.
That's gonna be.
I will. I'll have to. That'll be a challenge. I'll have to find a way to make that happen. We can do Dropbox. Okay. Nick, I think this is your presentation.
Okay, go to the next slide. Okay, we can go a little bit through these fast. So that's just a comparison of the different resolutions, high dynamic range, go through. So this was one thing we talked about with Sony, is that they basically, it seemed like what their technology basically was doing was it was using kind of like alpha mats to figure out what the bright parts of the image were and accentuate them even further. This is something that's going to come out probably like the next 2 years, but they were showing the recent reboot of Annie, and he was up in the helicopter, Jamie Foxx was up in the helicopter, and you could see outside, and it was like blinding how bright it was with the high dynamic range. It was ridiculous. So it's like going to go too far. I mean, it's like you can go beyond what you would ever want to see, and you see your eyes. Go on, keep going, keep going. Go to the next one. So yeah, so this is basically showing, this is the one VR experience I was able to actually get into. They had the long like 4-hour line for the Oculus Rift, and they had the empty line next to it. And I asked, well, what's this one for? So, oh, it's for the Samsung Gear VR. So I actually did like 3 times while I was there. Whenever it was, so, but you can go in and sit down, and they have all the different apps. It's really cool. That's where I had the Netflix and a bunch of different games, and they actually had VR short films. And the cool thing too is that they have the 3D audio. So there was a short film where it was this couple, and they have this fight on the beach, and the girl goes out in the water, and the guy is like on this kind of old boat, and depending on where you turn your head, you hear the thoughts of each person. So that's kind of cool. And they had one where it's like experience where you're in an insane asylum with as a mental patient in a wheelchair, and you're stuck going through. That was really cool stuff. Yeah.
Brings back some memories.
So yeah, so this is the PlayStation VR, basically being able to play the PlayStation games in virtual reality. And yeah, these people were, I think they literally let people play the entire game. That's what the the demo was. And you can see like people, as one of the common things is that people are actually sitting down, like to go up and take pictures next to people who are doing the VR unsuspectingly. Hey, go to the next one. So that's just like the Oculus Rift, the ones coming out. I have the really long line. It's always be kind of the highest resolution so far we've had for VR. Go to the next one. This is the HTC Vive. I didn't really get a chance to see this one, but it's big, one of the competitors. Go forward. Okay, so on the right, you see there's the Omni. So basically, you put on these shoes that are like soft pads. So then you're walking around and you have like a harness on your waist, and you have the VR headset on, and you can have like a gun controller or whatever. But you're basically walking around the virtual world. So yeah, and then go to the next one. So this is I got to try this out. So it's actually a flight simulator, but it's VR. So it's actually an exercise machine that like strengthens your core. You get a balance on it. But you put on the VR headset and you're actually like flying around in this virtual space.
Shades of
like,
Superman.
Yeah, you're basically flying. Yeah, it was really cool. This was yeah. They have a little adjustable thing for your like prescription.
The question was,
yeah.
how did it work if you wear glasses?
Yeah, I mean it worked okay. Some of them I just put my glasses on still. Other ones I was able to adjust it, and it worked fine. The Samsung one is pretty low res, but I'm sure the other ones will be a lot better. So this was something that was really cool that's going to launch on Kickstarter next month. But you see there at the bottom of the couch, there's these little things that you put in the bottom of the feet to your couch, and then it takes the image, the sound, and the inputs on your controllers for video game systems, and it uses that in some kind of algorithm to actually make your couch shake and move. So you can do virtual reality, and when you're like they had it with like a driving game that I got to try out, and when you turn the car, the couch turns to the side, or if it's like an action movie and there's gunshots, your couch is going up and down. It was crazy. There was some of the older, it seems like companies from VR. Their whole thing was more so going with, rather than being actually like virtual reality, it was you just had a little tiny OLED screen look to you and you put it on like it's a 120-inch screen.
So here's the cool stuff. The other stuff wasn't.
Yeah. So this is really interesting. We went through the demo with Technicolor, but their whole thing now is that they're saying that the next step in archival is DNA archival, where you use a sequence of DNA, because all you need is one and 0. You can replicate that with the two of the DNA parts, and then they actually will have it. They had actually a little tiny vial, and they said there's like 1 million copies of a movie in here, and he had an eyedropper, and you could drink, you have like a drink of a movie, and but the whole thing is that they're saying that within 100 years, like right now with like LTOs and all these different technologies, it's gonna the machines won't be around to read them, but with DNA they'll always be able to sequence DNA, provided that we have we're still technological at that point. So this was really cool. This was a charger that could wirelessly charge everything in your house.
Didn't Tesla say that he wanted to do that? He talked about
but
wireless
these guys
power.
did it already. No, next one.
How's it done is the question.
I'm not sure. It didn't say exactly on the card. Yeah, it's magic. No. So this was cool. This is it was the tailgater or King tailgater, and the whole thing was that you can put this on your RV, and you can get Dish or DirecTV on your RV. It'll pick it up.
How big was it?
About that big. It was like, it's like yeah.
But it was only about 8 inches around or so?
Yeah, it was not big at all.
The thing to remember on the DBS antenna, all the DBS antennas, is they can be a lot smaller as long as you do not want to use them in anything that approaches rain of any type.
Yeah, I mean, you can see how big, that's basically like the size of a business card, the little placard, so you can see how big it is in relation to that. But yeah, so this was a funny one. It was a smart wheel, and so it was on Shark Tank and things too, but it's a steering wheel cover that makes sure that you're looking at the road as a sensor, so it'll report to your parents, like for teenagers, it'll report to parents that the kid was distracted when they were driving or texting and driving. That was pretty funny. I'll go next one. Okay, so there's a lot of Internet of Things. I didn't show the pictures of like the light bulbs and all that stuff because that's pretty much what's been out. But the big thing now is having all the outlets that control power consumption, and you can basically make any item in the house control with the Internet of Things, and also that they have, if you plug in any light that's dimmable, you can plug in one of these outlets and you can dim it through that. And also having, you can go back, the remotes that control everything within your house, plus have access to all the different OTT networks and everything within one single platform was really cool. Next one. So this was a really cool thing. There were actually this one guy in this small like 10 by 10 booth with like, I mean, it was just him, white booth, white shirt, white counter, but it was a really cool invention. What it is a plug that you put on your outlet, and then you plug your router into it, and it connects to the router via Wi-Fi, and when it disconnects, it automatically resets your router.
This guy's had Comcast, right?
So yeah, go on to the next one. Okay, so this was kind of a crazy one. It's the key mouse. So both of those, it's your keyboard split between your two hands, and it's actually both of them are mice. So you can move either one to move your cursor. And that
I just
did
got a
win
mental
best of,
picture of trying to use that.
and that did win a Best of CES award. Good, next one. Yeah, so wearables were really big. On the left, that's basically like a little recorder that you can just put on your shirt, and just at any point you just click it and you can record your thoughts or anything, and it'll annotate them for you and do speech to text. The middle one is it's instead of having a fitness tracker on your wrist or wherever, it's actually you have a Bluetooth headset looking thing in your ear, and actually gets all the data through your ear, and then it's like a personal coach as well. On the right, Samsung. On the right, the Samsung was showing all these different things to go with their technology, but this is actually a belt, a smart belt that tells you when you've been eating too much, and when your belly extends out, it knows that you're overeating and tells you to stop.
What if you have one that's stuck in the on position all the time?
You can go to the next one. You can go to the next one. So yeah, so on the left, that was like I think everyone pretty much has coined it as the Fitbit for dogs. As a Wonder Wolf, we actually got one for our little, they had a bunch of different wearables, but we have a little Yorkie, so this was the only one that was small enough and light enough that you could actually have on, and your dogs can have other friends who have the thing, and they can congratulate each other on walks and stuff. It was pretty funny, and you get bones based on activity. And then on the right, it was a product called Clever Pet, and what it is that it's like a Simon Says for your dog, and so it starts off with like simple little like patterns, as in like just touch it and it works, and then it trains them to be smarter over time with the different games, and then if they get it right, it rotates around and a little tree comes out. And then this one was an AI dog. It was actually pretty cool. The link is on the flyers and stuff, but actually you have a watch that you put on, and when you press the like button when he does something, then he knows to do that more. And you can go fetch things, and like you can train him to not like certain people and all kinds of stuff. It was really crazy. And he has a ball that he can go fetch wherever it is, but he will track your entire house and know where everything is. So you can tell him to go different places, and he won't like run to the walls and all that. It's actually pretty cool.
Go get me a beer.
Oh yeah, he knows to go to sleep, so he runs back to his charger when he's out of battery. The next one.
It is a little artificial pouch to pee on the carpet.
Yeah. So yeah, smart bottles. There's a lot of smart bottles there. One of the really cool ones was Life Fuels, where they actually had on the top these different packets that had different vitamins and things like magnesium for sleeping, and they had like a pre-workout, post-workout, all these different things that you put these pods in there, and then has a touchscreen to inject that into your water. And the other ones, for the most part, were just, you have a bottle of water and it tells you, tracks how much you're drinking over time. And the one on the far right, that one actually was a scale. They had the bottle, but you could actually just put that on the bottom of whatever bottle, and you'd actually get that, and it would tell you on like your Apple Watch face or wherever how much you've been drinking. 3D printing was huge, and they actually had where they could 3D print based on taking pictures of your feet. They could 3D print a sole perfectly for your foot. And on the right, it was really cool. They actually had where they're putting these booths in like Targets and Walmarts where you actually have them take pictures of you, and then you can get action figures of yourself as Captain America, Iron Man, Star Wars characters. It was pretty cool. But they're only $60 though. So yeah, so one of the cool things was that they had now the heads-up displays for your for driving. So you had like a little tiny piece of glass that they have a projector that goes across it. But this one was really cool because all it does is it has like one of those sticky pads that you put your phone on, and it just reflects the phone onto it. So you don't need the really expensive. I mean, it's only like $40, and it was pretty cool. I actually picked one of those up. There's Revels, which were headphones that you could use an app, and the headphones would morph to your ear and perfectly fit your ear. Pavlok was really interesting. It was a wearable that you use to break habits, and so it can automate through like Facebook and things if you're on it too much, or you can do it manually, but it literally will shock you if you're doing the thing that you shouldn't be doing. And yeah, and then they had it was really cool. They had I think it was InLapse was the name of it, but it was a time lapse camera, but it had a solar panel on the top, and it connect through pretty much any way of connection, like Wi-Fi, cellular, whatever. But you could basically literally leave this out as long as you wanted, wherever autonomously, and it would keep tracking the a time lapse. Because a big problem is how do you keep a camera out for an extended period of time with power in the middle of nowhere? You can go next one. So that shows more like the heads-up display, the way it looks, and there's tons of apps that just are in the marketplace that you can use for it. You can go to the next one. That's it.
Yeah. Peter, did you have a?
So early in my career, one of my former bosses told me and taught me never, ever, ever to take any pictures in Las Vegas. And then he then he came up with the phrase, "What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas," and comfortably retired for the rest of his life. So, but in all seriousness, I didn't know I'm going to be sitting on this panel while at CES, so I haven't taken any pictures. But one more quick technology to highlight. I'm surprised none of you captured that on your pictures. And that was actually at Ericsson booth. They had a demo of the 5G RAN base station, and they were broadcasting 4 UHD channels using the 5G spectrum, right, and promising that they can actually do hundreds of channels, once it's all said and done and deployed, right? So, that is a new technology that when it comes, it will, make the wireless companies a potential competitor that will be able to actually provide a paid TV, linear paid TV, using the wireless spectrum directly to the homes. So that was really, really impressive.
If I can ask, first off, I want to open this up to questions. So start thinking of your questions. That includes people streaming. You can type your question into the chat window, and we'll relay them and ask them for you. How many of you were doing what I was doing? I was watching all of this, said, oh, yeah, I saw that on Battlestar Galactica. No, I saw that on Star Trek. Oh, they did that. And so, in the Jetsons, it's one thing to be able to see it here, and, oh, yes, it's $14,000. It's 40,000. It's 2 times 40,000. This is wonderful, but it will come into our homes when the price drops to the point that we can afford it. And the first question I'll ask is about the 3D printers. 3D printers have been around for a couple years. They're getting better, and are the prices coming down to the point where I might want to get one for my house?
Absolutely. I mean, $800 for that printer that printed up the large DNA model. I mean, that they will come down. I mean, they're probably going to be hot at Christmas.
Yeah, you can easily get 3D printers for like $500 now.
Yeah.
Another interesting point as well, what the industry is doing, kind of, learning from Apple, they actually gifting the 3D printers to school. So at my kids' school, they actually have a 3D printing class where the teacher is teaching kids how to do the 3D printing. Very clever how they market that.
I mean, it'll come down, and then you'll pay out the nose for the material.
And then now that there's plenty of places you can go right now. I want to print something. You can go. There are 3D print shops. You walk in, give them the file, and they'll print it out.
Go to the library.
So questions, and again, I'll plug again, anybody streaming, you you're not going to be left out. You can ask questions also. Do we have questions here? George, let me come around. This, by the way, is going to help my Fitbit.
Somewhat humorous, but in reality, with a show like this and the 3D printers in Las Vegas, does anybody copying the casino chips? I mean, how do they protect themselves from that?
The chips have chips in them.
Yeah.
So it's I mean, you got a chip in your credit card now. There's not much difference between the casinos. So, and if that doesn't work, they'll take you into the desert and bury you.
In the vein of what you were just talking about, is there anything on the horizon to change the data caps that telecom provide? Many of the, not all, but some of the telecom providers are putting on your home wired internet services.
Yeah, $35 extra a month.
Yeah,
Well, that's what I'm getting at. So what's the point of the skinny bundle if I have to pay, for more internet?
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, you have some stuff going on right now with the Time Warner Cable Charter merger, because Time Warner Cable, because they've gotten the tar beaten out of them, don't have data caps. Also because in many of their markets there's FiOS. So we'll see what happens with that. As you mentioned, the $35 fee from Comcast to waive the data cap. And the whole reason I'm still on AT&T Uverse is that AT&T Uverse is not actively enforcing their data cap. They don't have one. They claim they have one, but it's not being actively enforced. So we'll see what happens with that as far as the wired data cap. I think the only one who's really, really pushing the data cap among the big ISPs is Comcast. Yeah, I think they'd like to get that $35 waive the fee thing, but they're trying. So we'll see what happens.
I mean, the bandwidth consumption is gonna explode with 4K video, and I mean, people, and I think what we're gonna see people being able to grab bandwidth from wherever they can, whether it's their wired landline, new satellite services, wireless, terrestrial, whatever. They're gonna get as much bandwidth as they could possibly afford, and they'll suck it up and use it.
Also, isn't there some of the carriers are offering deals with like Netflix or Amazon where they're not charging for that streaming service?
Right, T-Mobile.
You get 480i.
Okay, that's my standard question.
Yeah, T-Mobile, for the companies they have agreements with, which is most of the big streaming providers, for 480p, they don't go against the data cap. And since they don't charge, and since they have a set of what I call RAND rules, where other companies can come along and join them, it doesn't, their interpretation, and for the most part, the FCC's interpretation is that doesn't violate net neutrality, because they've said, here are the rules. If you're willing to meet these rules and we don't get any money, you can join. And so the FCC so far has said, yeah, we'll call that okay.
So I think we're kind of incredibly lucky here in the U.S. that most of the data consumption is actually kind of a flat fee, right? In most of the world, it is capped, it is measured, right? And I think it's coming here one way or another. As the consumption of bandwidth goes up, it's going to be only natural that maybe the caps will be really high, but if you're streaming at 1.45 UHD streams into your house, you probably should be paying a little bit more than somebody that is just doing a little bit of the web browsing, right? And quite frankly, right now with really the cable modems, being, the only high-speed alternative, unless the 5G gets rolled out really quickly, across all the metro areas, that will give a little bit of a competition. But even with, two different technologies, I think we all going into the meter world.
Yeah. Like I said, I have Uverse data, and I'm currently getting 30 down and 5 up, and so it works.
Okay, you guys talked about some wonderful technology. Do you remember any of the names of the startups that you think will make it?
One of the virtual reality desktop I met with was called Envelop VR, and I've known them for a little while. I think they've got the right folks on board, and they're going to make it. E.
Remember, the definition of making it is survive long enough to sell out.
Just one comment on the looking at companies that are getting into it, is that when you're in the bottom of the sands, is it was almost like Comdeck's initial days. I mean, it was so exciting. All these little booths, and they were all self-financed by Indiegogo and Kickstarter. I mean, it was the badge of honor. So all you do is go to Indiegogo and Kickstarter. All those, that's where all the hot companies are, and they're self-funded. They don't need investors, or they want investors. And in turn, what they've done is they have their investors start putting the money in to get the traction on the website for advertising. But that's it.
With the in the specifically in the television stuff that you saw, the high, ultra high definition, high dynamic range stuff, higher resolutions, do you guys see anything happening in the broadcasting industry that'll start adopting that as people start to see, hey, I can watch a Blu-ray, it looks amazing. I turn on Turner and it doesn't look so good anymore. Relative to those things, will we see broadcasters advancing into delivering some of that higher resolution, higher dynamic range content?
Okay, I think you have to split between broadcasters, meaning the OTA guys, and places. Well, there's a difference. And that is that the broadcasters' bits are much more limited. Whereas for the cable guys, as compared to the OTT guys, if the Comcasts and the Time Warners, want to do this stuff, there are ways of making more bits and making more bits available. There ain't no more bits available in over the air. You can do, and in fact, there's going to be less bits because the FCC is doing the spectrum auction. Some spectrum, how much remains to be seen. It may be most. It may not be most. We'll know more over the next year. But a significant amount of the current OTA spectrum is going bye-bye. It's going away. So whatever broadcasters do, they'll have to do in whatever bits they have available over the air, via whatever technology, whether it is an LTE, LTEA, whatever remains to be seen. So for them, for cable, once again, for cable, the gatekeepers are the Comcast, the Time Warner Cables, the Charters. As I knew from years working here, if those guys say we want something and we're willing to pay for it, the Turners and the Viacoms will make it happen. Time Warner, and the others aggregated. You do also, and then you also have DirecTV and Dish Network, but once again, they do have issues in terms of they've only got so many bits available. However, if they're willing to shut down their MPEG-2 SD, they could have a whole lot more bits.
But Rick, isn't ATSC3, I believe, was going to HEVC, which is going to let them do more with less? Because right now they're stuck in MPEG-2.
Yeah.
And that's about, 30% of the band. It takes about 30% of the bandwidth moving from MPEG-2 to HEVC, something like that.
In round numbers, you can do, it's about 1/4 of the bandwidth in round numbers, in general
right,
terms.
that's what I was getting at.
Yeah, and well, and I think that one way or the other. So but that's just to get them back to where they are. That is not getting them to, depending on how much spectrum goes away in the auctions. Now, there's a lot of, it may not be as much as some people think, because the last round of auctions the FCC did was a real disappointment from a revenue perspective. It didn't sell the way they hoped it would because Charlie Ergen wasn't speculating all over the place. So we'll see. We'll know more once this auction is done. If there's not a whole lot of takers and the broadcasters don't get the money, those that want to sell off their spectrum that they think they're going to get, they may still have a lot of spectrum and they may say, well, let's see what we can do with this stuff.
I was going to say,
again, a plug to the streamers if they want to ask questions. Go ahead.
I was going to follow up to Bob's question. So yeah, Rick talked a lot about HEVC. I think one of the things is I find interesting is that one reason I like to go to the show is because, like you said, you'll see things there, and then we go to NAB, and we're like, why aren't you guys making this? You know what I mean? Because you don't have an SDI or you don't have a broadcast type interface or something. You know what I mean, right? But you can see that they're doing it for very cheap, and that's why I think it's interesting. who would have thought you'd have a huge multi-panel type TV in your house, or Dish Network doing a quad, a 4K quad split. Really? I mean, there wasn't nobody in NAB except for Grass Valley that had a 4K, and it was really 4 1080p's, I believe, spliced together. So, you know what I mean? So, and we've been asking other vendors, right, Rick, out there for 4K, for a monitor wall, right? I think it'd be incredible, right? Because a lot of monitor walls, people don't realize that preview program you're seeing on that wall is standard def. You know what I mean? And the cameras are sometimes the cameras are VHS quality, really, because of the size of the screen and everything. So I think that's really neat, seeing that stuff get better and better. OLED, 4K,
And Bob, you brought up something. Nick, you and I have talked about this, that at CES you see a lot of wonderful things. You just can't buy them yet. And then we're talking January to April. We're talking, roughly about 4 months or 3 months until. Okay, wait. Is CES we're going to show it to you, but it doesn't work yet, and at NAB it's going to come out and you can actually buy it. Is that?
No, I think it's more like at CES they show you what we can make, and at NAB they show you what we're gonna make, and then probably about the next CES you can actually buy it.
The other big thing at CES is they show you what they can make, but the thing that they don't go into is what's the manufacturing cost. That's what drives this stuff. Can they make it with the actual yield price being low enough to sell it? And sometimes right now they don't really know. They think they can. They believe they have this curve. They believe their manufacturing process will improve till it gets to this point on this date, but it doesn't always happen that way.
And we know the big screen TVs, they're really in their stride, because going to Costco, going to anywhere, the price is down to a point where I can afford one.
Yeah, you can buy a 50. I mean, I was in Walmart the other day, and they had a 55-inch 4K TV for $8.99. No HDR yet.
HDR.
That's no HDR yet.
Well, once the TVs are perfected, that's right when you're going to be able to then have to switch all to VR.
Did anyone have old school and UHF antennas to go along with that slim package that are good?
Turk.
Yeah, but they have any really good, nice new ones?
No.
Better amps?
Well, that's actually that's not true. That's not true. And it's hard to say, because those little booths I was walking through from Southeast Asia, a lot of those had amplifiers, antennas. I mean, 'cause that stuff's a commodity now. That's not a marquee product. That's a commodity. And there were a lot of those booths pitching amplifiers, mass-mounted amplifiers, antennas of various types. But that's all from Wing Hing, Ching Ho, those places. Which when you buy it, it has somebody else's name stuck on it by the time you find it in the store.
Anything else? I have to tell you, I always judge a meeting, our success, by how long we go. We're coming up to 2 hours, and we still have people here. So first off, I want to thank the panelists. We had one of the questions was can we get this posted somewhere? The challenge I have is SMPTE has great limitations. Tim, we'll see if we can come up with some way to post them somewhere else so that people can do it. And that would be Digital Glue offering that. And we'll try and get this, because I think there's probably all told, probably close to 1 gigabyte or so of the files from everybody's presentation. I want to thank everybody. SSPI, you mentioned when your next meeting is, Michael? And SMPTE, February 8th, touring a data center and talking about the approach of being able to rent or purchase your bandwidth and your storage space based on your project. Thank you, everyone.